In this video blog, we're going to talk about who's afraid of the big bad iPhone. A few weeks back, I posted some articles here on the Digital Revolution about using a camera phone, in my case an iPhone 3GS, for the purposes of making artworks. And I got a lot of different responses from people who were very excited about the idea to people who thought this idea was just horrible. And I thought today I would sort of go over where I've been going with this and what I'm using in terms of tools. This is sort of part one. There'll be a two-part series here. So first off, when I talk about using your iPhone or whatever camera phone you have as a creative tool, I'm not saying that it replaces your Hasselblad. It doesn't replace your Leica or your Linhof. It's different. And in some ways, the low resolution capture that you can get from a camera phone is very sort of alt process. It's very low resolution, it's difficult to work with, there's all sort of issues that happen in the file, much like working with plastic lenses and toy cameras. So I find this very intriguing and very challenging and a lot of fun.
All right, so here we are over 13 years later since I made that original post. And I have to tell you, I made a sequence of posts back in 2010 where I talked about the iPhone and how I really felt firmly that within a handful of years, it would be the primary photography device for virtually everybody on the market. And I got so much bullshit hate mail from people that was crazy. The reality is I was right and you were wrong, because it actually has become that. Social media, mobile phones, and mobile technology has changed the world of photography in a way that it's never going to go back. And for good and bad. There are a lot of things that I miss pre-iPhone, believe me, but it's changed the way that I work as a photographer in ways that back in 2010 I never, ever could have anticipated. So first off, what's changed? Well, I use the iPhone pretty much as an unpaid intern. I use the iPhone for note-taking, for my light meter, for previewing apps, for syndicators, for mapping locations, making my dinner reservations. It's amazing what I'm able to do with this device, and all of those tools enhance what I can do as an artist. So I see it really more as an auxiliary tool to enhance what I'm going to do. I'm a total film junkie. I'm not that impressed with the overall still image quality of the iPhone. It's good, but it's not to my liking. I like the way a film looks and how a film scan looks. But what's interesting is recently I was at a month-long residency in Scotland. I've posted about that here on Digital Revolution. And I was shooting everything in film. It was being shot in Ferrani at P30. And I had the need to scan the film while on location in Scotland. But I did not have the ability of bringing a scanner to Scotland with me. And I decided, well, what if I maybe photograph my film? And I looked at a lot of different camera stands that use digital cameras. But the reality is I don't own a digital camera outside of an iPhone 13 Pro Max. It's the only digital camera that I own. So I decided that I was going to see if there was a way to use the iPhone 13 Pro Max to photograph my film. Now, Lomography sells what's actually, to be honest, kind of a nice copy stand, and it locks the iPhone in. You can shoot 35mm 120 panoramic images all with it. And I was surprised at how much I liked how the phone was capturing and rendering my film. It wasn't doing Imicon quality, not even close, but it was doing a quality that was really interesting. So my initial expectation was to use these photographic captures of my film while I was on location in Scotland. And then when I came home, I would do much higher resolution scans on the Imicon. That's not what happened. I came home and I scanned a few of the negatives and I went, wow, for this particular body of work, I like how the phone is rendering the film more than how my Imicon is. Now, that's not true every day, but for this particular body, for the idea that I had, that was the look that I wanted. So I ended up going through and photographing all of the film. As a matter of fact, 5 of the pieces that are photographed that way, that are printed on 300-euro paper, are right now on display at the Knoxville Museum of Art, and they look fantastic. But it's a particular look that I wanted. If you remember in that first video, I talked about how that low resolution quality can give it this very sort of alt process look. That's very much what happened in this process. It's not what I want every day, but for this particular body, it was great. And that's one of the things that I like about this blending of hybrid technology, is that I don't have to use the materials the way that they were intended for. The idea of using my phone to capture this black and white material, to print on this old paper, or using my phone as this unpaid assistant to do all these different things for me is really wonderful. And it's wonderful in a way that back in 2010, I could have never, ever imagined. The one thing that I think is really interesting about the phone, and I'm going to be really excited to see where this comes in the next couple of years, is the cinematic mode. I'm filming right now in cinematic mode on an iPhone 13 Pro Max. The background quality, the autofocus rendering is all obviously done through AI. It's computative autofocus rendering, and it's not great, but it's not bad. And it's getting better and better and better with every upgrade. Do I ever think that the iPhone is going to replace the quality of, an 8K camera with an Ingenue lens? No, but it doesn't have to. That's not where it's trying to fit. Much like how when I photographed my film in Scotland, I wasn't trying to recreate or surpass what an Imicon scan could do, but it gave me something else. And that's where I see the phone coming into play in movie making. I just was a DP on a film this last summer, and everything that we shot, for the most part, was filmed on a Sony FX6 with really great glass, and it was beautiful. But I do predict, and I'll make this prediction right now, that within 5 years, if technology continues to increase the way it is, and there's no reason it shouldn't, within 5 years, a smartphone will absolutely be usable. It's not going to replace, but absolutely be usable for making really beautiful films. I mean, there have been short and feature-length films already done on the iPhone. I'm very aware of that. But you can tell that they were on the iPhone. But that difference between the two is going to transition. All right, so I just made another prediction that in 5 years, the way that you and I work, if we're making movies, is going to change. Stay tuned. Let's check back in and see if I was right again.
I just think that it's important that you don't overlook sort of these creative options and these creative tools that the camera phone that you have in your pocket sort of provide.